All right, Liza, this is the final roll of the Kouign Amman. So you've already done the 3 on the day that you mixed the dough. Let's see if we can see that beautiful layering, maybe even in focus. And so the last time you roll it out, you still roll it out in flour. However, when I go to fold it up, sugar goes inside instead. And that is the birth of the crunchy, buttery heart of the Kouign Amman. So just roll it out into a rectangle. It really doesn't, the exact measurements of the rectangle don't matter that much as long as you can accurately divide it in 3 when you're done. Whether you eye it or measure it, up to you. I've been doing 24 inches just because it divides nicely by 3, but I might not get there right now. All right. Oh, a little over 21. So we're going to mark it at 7 inches and 14 inches. And this central piece, maybe I can move it better into camera range. Ooh, look at that. All right, I don't know if you can see the markings on the central piece that I just made, but we're going to take some everyday ordinary table sugar and sprinkle a substantial but not ridiculous amount of sugar in there. At the end of the day, it's probably a tablespoon or 2 teaspoons. So, nice even layer of sugar. I usually fold the raggedy end. One end is clean looking, the other end is kind of raggedy looking. I fold the raggedy end inside. And then, on top of that surface, once again, a tablespoon or so of sugar. Fold it over. And then the final shaping will take place several hours from now, and we'll see you then. All right, so this is another piece of that dough, which is exactly the same as the dough that I used for the Kouign Ammans, and it's going to make Danishes. So this I've just rolled out into one long strip, which is going to get even longer. Then I just want to find out how wide it is, just so I can accurately cut it in half. This one's 9 inches, so 4.5, 4.5. All right, you can give them a little stretch if you feel that they're not long enough or they're too fat. But anyway, the way the Danish is built, it starts out with a square of this dough, which is easily obtainable just by folding it over diagonally like that. Cut it, so it's a nice little square, but while you've got it folded in half, you're gonna make 2 lines. Cut a line that's not through to the corner and another one that's not through to the corner, so that when you open it up, you've got that. 2 connected, 2 loose. And then we're just going to set them all aside. All right, so here we are back, all cut and nicely laid out. And we're just going to open them all up and line them up. then we need to egg wash them to convince them to stick together. And so what's going to happen after we egg wash is we're going to first fold one corner that way, and then the other one like that. It makes a little bow tie type shape. But it's only really necessary to egg wash two sides to get it to stick. So that one and that one. If you can give the egg wash a couple of minutes to dry, it'll stick a little better. But if you don't have the few minutes, just slap the thing together. It'll work just as well, almost. All right, that's us all egg washed. Alright, so I can't exactly tell where the center of this screen is, but we're going to see. So the fold goes like this. The loose corner gets pushed down onto the egg wash part, and this egg wash part comes back over here. Press it down lightly, but especially get these two corners. Ding, ding. Ding, ding. You have to make that noise. And so go around the whole lot. I don't know how many of them you'll be making, but if you're in a hurry, you can just give the thing a slap like that. Alright, and so now we're back, all arranged pretty on a different piece of parchment than the one that I painted them on. I have found that errant egg wash goes underneath them when you're painting them and will cause them to stick down and ruin an otherwise perfect experience. So this is the magic filling here, which is a little more than cream cheese sugar. And a little goes in the center of each one. And then each one gets adorned, for lack of a better word, with a couple of raspberries. You know, 5 if they're little, 5 if they're big, 6 if they're little. And just squish them down a little. It helps push the cream cheese into all those little nooks and crannies in the corner. And I noticed what I just did was totally out of the camera frame, so let's see if we can get one that's actually visible like that. Oh, look at that. And so, you know, do that to all of them and then let them rise for a couple of hours until they've increased noticeably in height. All right, so a little word on the pan prep for the Kouign Ammans, which is, I use a muffin tin and they're very lightly oiled in that I literally put 2 or 3 drops of oil into each cup and then brush it evenly up and down the sides and the bottom. And that's all it takes to get the Kouign Amman to not stick there. So you can see just how little. Can't see it, can't see it, can't see it. All right, so here is our piece of Kouign Amman dough, or Danish dough, the one that we folded the sugar into. And now we're gonna shape it and put it in the pans to rise. So instead of using flour to keep it from sticking to the surface, you will notice that it's good old plain sugar. So I, you know, even though I'm loath to measure things, this is one of those things that in order to get the 12 I need out of this piece of dough, I have to roll this out to a fairly precise size. And if you're only making 8, for example, you could make it into a little strip, cut it down the middle, and you're going to want squares cut out of this. See, I need to get 12 squares. So just give me a second here. A little short, a little skinny, just like me. All right, I try and do as little trimming as possible to this, you know. It's not an easy dough to make, and it's caused me some trouble and aggravation to get it here. So far, this is the sum total of what I have trimmed off of it. All right, so 12 squares, each of which is 3 1/4 on a side. I'm sure you saw that I only measured that first one, and then I used that one as a guide to cut the others. Measuring is a trap. So one more measure, just speaking of which. All right, so now we've got 12 little pieces of dough, and if you look at one from the side, you'll see that there's the three layers from the last fold are still visible. They didn't meld together because of all that sugar, which is actually something that we wanted. So before we stick them in the pans here, a little bit of sugar on the table, press it down, and then pick it up by the 4 corners and bring those 4 corners together, and then holding it by the top, push it into the mold and give it a little push down, and it'll look kind of like a clover. So you do that for the rest of them, and then afterwards I wrap it lightly with plastic wrap and put it in the proofer to rise. All right. So we'll see you after they've risen significantly. Okay, so here we have the fully risen Kouign Ammans here. You can see that we're exceeding our container, just like I am. And they get sprinkled, I guess, liberally with sugar before they go in the oven. All right, and we'll see you on the other side. All right, and here, after 40 some odd minutes in the oven, maybe 30 minutes, who knows? It's best to tip one up out of the pan and look at its underside to see whether or not they're done. But you be the judge. All right.